Greetings again, Acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the Archives. Revan went down as one of the most influential men in all of galactic history. The changes he made to both the Jedi and Sith orders were only properly followed by Anakin Skywalker himself. Over Revan's life, there were a few distinguishing features that set him apart from the rest. His black robes, his purple lightsaber, and of course, his mask. The Mask of Revan is something of a legendary item, and a piece that represented both respect and infamy of the great legacy and conquests of the former Dark Lord. As soon as Revan donned the mask at the beginning of the Mandalorian Wars, we hardly ever see him take it off again, even to the moment of his very death. Throughout his adult life, it is easy to say that more of Revan's time was spent in the mask than out of it. And it is a known fact that Revan had made a vow to not remove the mask until the defeat of the Mandalorians. But it seems as though he kept his mask on for even longer. So why was this? Well, my friends, we'll be discussing that in today's holocron. There were 3 specific times in Revan's life whenever he wore the mask and refused to remove it. This of course excluding the resurrection of Darth Revan during the Great Galactic War. The very first and most famous time when he was first donning the mask was as a Jedi. Revan would first find it when on the planet known as Cathar, answering the Republic's call for help whenever the Mandalorian Neo-Crusaders were attacking the planets in the Outer Rim. Revan and his Jedi followers went out on a mission to search for evidence to bring back to the Jedi Council, in hopes that they would get the green light to fight against the Mandalorians in a full-fledged war, something that the Council was against. While on Cathar, they found the remains of a massacre. Hundreds of civilians lay dead in the shallow waters of the ocean. At the same time, a member of the Jedi High Council found Revan's group on the planet and ordered them to return to the Jedi Temple immediately, as they had left without permission to go on this single mission. While Lamar, the name of the council member, was berating Revan and his followers, Revan noticed a mask half buried in the sand. Lifting it up, it was the mask of a Mandalorian. And all of a sudden, this mask caused a force echo, and every Jedi had a shared vision of the events that had transpired. The mask belonged to an unknown female Mandalorian warrior who was present with the Neo-Crusaders during the campaign of Cathar. This group of Mandalorians was led by a man named Cassus Fett, who had cornered the civilians of Cathar into the water of the ocean, with their guns poised to execute every single one of them. The female Mandalorian bravely stepped between the Mandalorians and the innocent civilians, begging Cassus to stop and to not massacre the innocent people of the world. Refusing to listen, Cassus ordered the Mandalorians to open fire. Standing with the civilians, the Mandalorian woman died trying to defend them. Once the Jedi all came out of this vision, Revan's will was now reinforced with steel, and he would don the mask in honor of the female Mandalorian, and vowed to never remove it until the Neo-Crusaders had all been brought to justice. I think that this is incredibly interesting, the fact that Revan actually took the Mandalorians' culture and used it against them, with Mandalorians of old typically not removing their helmets. Revan, in a sense, was making a judgment against them by using the metrics of their own culture. Of course, the Neo-Crusaders didn't adhere to the way, and were a bit looser on the idea of removing their helmet and showing their faces. But Revan would have studied their ancient ways by this point, as most of the original Mandalorian Crusaders kept their faces covered during their conquest in the time of the Old Sith War. Revan would have been very familiar with Mandalorian culture, and he undoubtedly studied them for tactical purposes. The claiming of the Mandalorian woman's mask goes beyond just honorable tribute to what the woman stood for. It was, in effect, demonstrating to the Mandalorians how they could have or should have gone. The woman who put herself between her murderous comrades and the innocent people of Cathar is what a true Mandalorian would have done. Not just a warrior, but a defender of the defenseless, and a martyr for righteousness. Her sacrifice would spur Revan into making a statement about the Mandalorian culture. Their masks could be symbols of hope rather than symbols of destruction. But he would soon turn the tables on the Mandalorian, as that mask would be the last one that the Mandalorians would ever see. Thus, it was Revan's way of heaping retribution upon them by subjugating them to the same terror that they gave to all the innocents that they slaughtered. At the end of the war, Revan would claim yet another Mandalorian helmet, the Mask of Mandalore the Ultimate, and he would hide it away where it would never be found again by the Mandalorians, thus reducing their ranks and cultures to nothing but splinters. Revan would don his own mask yet again when he and Malak would return from the unknown regions as fully fledging Sith Lords. Darth Revan's mask, originally a statement about justice, had now become the very thing he had sworn to destroy, a symbol of tyranny and conquest. now the face of a ruthless Sith who would stop at nothing until the Jedi Order was crumbled. Darth Revan ignited the Jedi Civil War as all of the loyalists from both the Jedi Order and the Republic Navy rallied under his banner. By the end of the war though, the Jedi managed to convert Revan back to a Jedi. In a cruel twist, Revan's mask was also hidden away after his defeat, just as he had once done to Mandalore the Ultimate. For most of his time thereon as a Jedi, Revan had believed his mask to be lost, and wouldn't don it again for another several years. With his memory still partially gone, Revan couldn't recall what had happened to him, as well as Malak in the unknown regions, and desired to figure out what the cause of their turn to the dark side was, fearing that there could be a more powerful Sith somewhere in the unknown. Revan then disappeared yet again into the unknown regions, but this time he did not come back, having been captured by the hidden reconstituted Sith Empire and locked away in the dungeons of Darth Nihilus. Mitra Surik, though, would soon go on a quest to find Revan, stopping by Bastila's house first. There, the Jedi would gift Mitra Revan's mask, revealing that she had kept it hidden away from him for all those years, hidden out of fear that the mask would give him his old memories back and turn him to the dark side once again. Mitrik would find and free Revan from his prison, but get caught in the conflict with the powerful Nihilus. Revan, though, who was already weakened from being imprisoned, touched his mask, and all of his memories came flooding back in a single large crash. A vision that caused him to collapse. When it all seemed hopeless, and Nihilus was about to triumph over Mitra, Revan came out of his cell with his mask donned, and he destroyed the Dark Lord, disintegrating her with her own Force lightning. With his reclaimed mask, Revan was more powerful than ever. All his memories of his dark side past were now apparent, and he came to fully realize his power in both the light and the dark sides of the Force. The mask had yet again taken on a new meaning, the wholeness of Revan's self. But Mitra soon became worried about him, as even after they escaped from Nihilus' fortress, Revan did not remove the mask. When Mitra looked at him, she noted how he reminded her of how he was during the Jedi Civil War. He looked powerful, indomitable, and in her exact words, Revan looked invincible. But that didn't stop her from being concerned that he would eventually turn back to the dark side. The fear, though, would all be put to rest when once they were safe, Revan removed his helmet. Within the mask, Revan had found a holo recording of Bastila and his newborn son, whom he had yet to meet. Revan would again wear the mask during his confrontation with the Sith Emperor Vitiate, and for all intents and purposes, Revan would technically go to the grave with his mask on. During the fight, Mitra and Revan would be defeated by the Sith Emperor, and Revan would be imprisoned yet again, but this time in a stasis chamber where Vitiate tried to turn him back to the dark side. The next time Revan emerged, the light side of himself has split from the darker half, having left the body completely, therefore leaving behind only Darth Revan until he would be remerged at the end of the Revanite Crisis and the conclusion of the Great Galactic War. Revan used his mask as a symbol for the various stages of his life, and it never reflected any one specific ideal, but several depending on which point in time you choose. But after some analysis, we can firmly decree why Revan truly didn't remove his mask during these 3 periods in time, save for the third when he removed it a single time to watch the recording. Revan's mask represents his devotion to judgment of a foe, or rather, it is a declaration of war. In our world, there is a Native American tribe known as the Mohawk. In their culture, they would stick a hatchet in a tree as a declaration of war or as a sign of a feud. As soon as their enemy was defeated or the war was concluded, only then would the axe be removed. Much in the same way, we have come to believe that Revan was donning the mask and sticking with the way of the hatchet in the tree. He did so first against the Mandalorians, then against the Jedi, and then the third time against Vitiate. He would not remove his mask until judgment had been levied against his enemies, and after the Mandalorian War, the act somewhat became his new MO. But anyway, my friends, we definitely want to know what your thoughts are on Revan's mask, and what are your thoughts on the reasoning for keeping his mask on? A declaration of war, or the destruction of an enemy? As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.